All right, guys. So OnlyFans model Bella Thorne, she was also a Disney star, but OnlyFans model Bella Thorne has rejected an autograph seeker who tried to get her to sign some photos of her that were sexualized. That's what her problem with it was. There's a couple of things here. Is it because the photos were sexualized, Mary, or is it because one of them was when she was under 18? And if that's a problem, why did she do them at all?
This is a difficult story to cover because I think Bella Thorne is just another former child star who hasn't actually reckoned with what happened to her. But
there's like a couple of layers to this that are really interesting. On one hand, I feel bad for the dude who's just like batted 0 for 4 apparently and picking out photos he could get signed by Bella Thorne.
This is a guy who like
also kind of creepy.
He tried to meet her at Sundance and she told him off when he was looking for an autograph. Here's what she said about it. I normally don't tell them off, but they offended me. It was this guy. He was shoving photos in front of me, and I looked away for a second and looked back, and there was a photo of me from my GQ magazine cover. It's super sexy. My butt is out. I'm wearing lingerie, and I'm topless. I said I wouldn't sign that, and he took it away and then put it back in front of me again. I said, no, I'm not signing that. He pulled out another photo of a magazine with another sexy image. He was like, come on, Bella, sign it for me. I didn't like it. It was inappropriate. There was some stuff there from a Candies campaign that I did when I was 16, and it was clear that he wanted me to sign things that were viewed as sexy and even underage. And I was like, give me something else. He said, aren't they all sexy? No, enough is enough. But I get it. They have to make money and everyone has a job, so I get that. It was just that I was under 18 and it's inappropriate. So it's a guy who like gets autographs and then resells them on like eBay and stuff.
So let's hold off on the Candies ad one and let's talk about the GQ one. So is the idea here that it was okay for her to take the photos, have the photos printed, and have people look at them, but somehow signing it was too much of an endorsement? Is that what I'm supposed to take? I'm actually asking this question. I don't know what I'm supposed to take from this.
It's weird because like, so she's 16 in the Candies campaign.
But not in the GQ ad.
But I'm looking at the campaign right now, the Candies campaign from all those years ago. And she's dressed modestly. It's very normal. It's not very sexual. There's nothing adult about it, honestly. You could maybe argue that she's wearing a skirt that's like kind of tight, but it's like whatever. Like they overdress kid celebrities all the time.
Also, just remember that this is an OnlyFans model that's talking about the modesty of the world.
Well, yes, it's like you dress sexually all the time.
Yep.
Even at the Sundance Festival, where this is being recounted, she's dressed in this way, like in skimpy outfits, which is like, it is what it is. And you started OnlyFans where it made you like $1 million in a day selling lewds. People are going to see you in a sexual way.
Yep.
A lot. Like a lot of them are going to see you in a sexual way. And it's like...
What if it was a print of an OnlyFans picture she posted? Would that be okay?
This combined with like her telling that story about this casting director who felt like she was being like flirty with him when she was a child.
When she was 10, yeah.
It's and then her conflating a non-sexualized campaign she did as a child with sexualized campaigns she did as an adult, just because they're next to each other in this guy's hand.
So she's a mess.
She's got it all jumbled up in her brain and hasn't sat down and like actually done any introspection about the distinguishing like between the two. She hasn't even inquired in herself like, why did that guy think I was flirting with him when I was a kid? Maybe I was acting flirty because somebody made me think that was appropriate, an appropriate way to act with adults. Somebody other than that casting director.
She should come up with like a chart, maybe?
Like, do we need like a flow chart to help you out, Bella Thorne? Because like, this just sounds like someone who desperately needs like therapy and like to not be in the spotlight. If you aren't able to distinguish someone else's intentions from like the intentions of the people who actually hurt you.
Yeah. Also, the first thing I thought of when I thought of this was OnlyFans gym girl who's okay with being objectified as long as she makes the money on it, right? So is the idea here that it was okay for the photos to be taken and she's okay with being objectified, she's just not okay with being objectified again in the same context? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, she wants to allow herself to be objectified, but she wants to be able to monetize it at every level. In that case, I would ask, what was the guy paying for the autograph? Was it because the amount was too low? I'm literally baffled by why she draws the line here, given her other content. Also, should there be like a graph at like the signing booth that lists like this type of image is appropriate, this type of image isn't appropriate? Would it have been okay if a woman had wanted to have those pictures signed?
From Bella Thorne's subjective point of view, maybe, because I think she's got a lot of things to work out mentally and emotionally. Like, this is like a classic example of just like a former child star who is like very dissociated in their mind and hasn't like worked through their problems and projects them onto people who didn't do anything to them. Like, it's like Bad Baby saying that like people who subscribe to her OnlyFans should be in jail.
Yeah.
We're in this like psycho moment right now of like the aftermath, like the nuclear winter of the sexual revolution, where...
Well, this is more like the post sexual revolution. We're now in the bubble bursting phase of like the market, like the market's capped.
We've been at that.
Yeah.
It's been a while since that happened, in my opinion, where like it's like you can only sexualize me if I make the terms.
Exactly. That's what I mean. But when I'm talking about the gym girl who doesn't want to be stared at by the guy in the gym, but is okay with filming herself and having an OnlyFans.
That's part of the plausible deniability that they are addicted to. So it's really difficult to talk about this and make any sense because it requires like a lot of psychoanalysis that, like, for Bella Thorne, we don't even know this woman. But what we do know is things she said out loud. So she said, I was sexually abused in my childhood from age 6 by someone who lived in my house. She said that, you know, she was in the entertainment industry from that age as well.
Should she
and
just
that
have
she
not
faced
had
like
these
creepy
photos?
behavior from people in that industry?
If it's inappropriate, shouldn't the photos have just not been taken in the first place?
Which ones though?
So both of so the Candies ad, which you said wasn't very provocative.
I mean, the issue we're dancing around here is that a lot of women, maybe I won't go as far as to say all women because that's an inflammatory thing to say, but like a lot of women don't have agency and they think they do. Nobody
loves the idea of talking about their own agency more than a woman who's not willing to take even the smallest responsibility for her own actions.
What I'm saying is like a woman like Bella Thorne, who is incredibly emotionally immature, who hasn't worked out any of her trauma from who she said herself being sexually abused as a child, from being a child star, etc. Also, she doesn't have agency. She doesn't have personal accountability. She doesn't have the capacity for taking responsibility for her actions. That's my opinion. I don't think that she honestly has the critical thinking skills to decide what is...
And she felt offended, and that's a very strong emotion to feel in the moment and then reacted in a way that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The problem is the average person will read this and all they're going to take from it is that men bad, men sexualizing women bad. This dude was probably... The funny thing is about it is it's proof of like the concept that they always have that sex sells. Why did he pick those photos? Is it because he's a creep or is it because he's a photo reseller and an autograph reseller and he knows that these are the ones that will sell? If anything, he's not the creep. The people that are buying them would be the ones that she would consider the creeps, right? Because he's just selling it just like the people who took the original photos.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
She's got like 10 different narratives running.
It makes no sense.
Like tangentially with each other. That all like conflict.
It's funny too because I can I understand that feeling where like you know something in your bones to be true, but you don't know how to verbalize it. And that's a problem I have all the time. But the problem is being offended isn't an excuse for this type of statement. Not really. Like being offended, like the dude didn't do anything wrong. As far as I can see, the dude didn't do anything wrong. Right. Mm-hmm. And she took the photos first. The photos are there out now. She understood this guy's doing a job because she mentioned, goes like, look, he's got a job to do. He's got money to make, right? So she gets the business aspect of it. It's like she grasps every aspect of what this is supposed to be, but because of trauma or whatever has happened to her, it's like she won't allow them to connect in a way. And it's kind of fascinating. And it's kind of a window into the idea of just how badly people who are abused in Hollywood, how badly it messes them up. There was a story recently about like one of these girls who was into like extreme body modification saying like she regrets it now and it's too late. Her life is like over now. There is so much that we as, and again, this is as a libertarian, a small L libertarian, I would never, not the party, like who says, you know what, you're an adult, do what you want. But I also understand that when a girl does this, at 18 or 19 years old and says, I'm going to just do all of these things to my body and change the way I look, do I think that she's going to not regret that down the line? No, my job is to understand that it's not I can't tell her what to do. And me knowing that she's going to regret it isn't on me. We have to allow other people to live their lives. She's been traumatized in a way that's beyond that. Obviously.
Well, why do we need to talk about these people like we're their parents?
Because they're basically children.
Like,
because they're basically children.
Like they're rebelling against us by getting a tattoo or by like taking photo shoots in a bikini or something. Yeah. Like it's nothing to me. No. Bella Thorne is nothing to me. Obviously. Why do I need to talk about her like she's my daughter? Like I
feel that way about most of the stuff we talk about. I feel that about most of the stuff we talk about. Like with a lot of what we talk about, I struggle to say anything other than so what? So what?
Right. I guess why it's important to talk about it is because this, like Bella Thorne influences people who are nothing like her. So like people who don't have the actual excuse to act like this, then act like this. Yeah. People who didn't go through anything that Bella Thorne went through that made her this unhinged.
Absolutely.
Are acting equally unhinged. So
because like, their dad yelled at them when they were younger. And
everyone has to be like equally a victim. Like, okay, another question that this interviewer asked her at Sundance is, what parts of your job aren't working so well? And she said, being ridiculed for stepping outside of the house, trying to live my life or do something privately and not being able to have my own thoughts or opinions. She obviously thinks that she has no right to privacy or self-possession. So when someone is shoving photos of her in a bikini in her face, she basically demonizes that one person as representing the entire problem of her industry.
I'm picturing like...
So she reacts that way. It's emotional.
I'm picturing the women of the adult film industry at like their conventions turning away people coming to get naked photos of them signed and saying, I did not...
They're just better actresses.
They are.
I bet they hate those people just as much, but they're better actresses.
They're better capitalists.
They're better at actually dissociating their feelings. Yeah. Which is a bad thing. I'm saying it's a bad thing, but...
They're better capitalists. It's just not good for them as people.
Yeah, like, it depends on, like, how good you are at dissociating.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally it. Yep. Clearly, Bella Thorne isn't good at it, which might be a good sign. It might be a good sign that she hasn't fully lost herself. And, you know, she knows that being sexualized bothers her on some level. That's a starting point.
Yep.
For making sense of your life and like maybe getting on a better path, but she's around a bunch of people who scream, you know, empowerment at her. So it's a completely self-defeating message. Another thing she brought up is like this interview that Anne Hathaway did years ago at Sundance when she was a teenager, where a journalist asked her if she was a good girl or a bad girl. And Bella Thorne then recalled this time when an interviewer asked her if she liked women because she was R-worded by a man. And she was like, what an effing thing to ask me. I was so baffled. I told him off. Obviously, people in this industry are weirdos, and being around them long enough will make you lose your mind.
I love that they just tell people off for asking questions.
But that question is a crazy question to ask.
It's
like that's a crazy thing to ask somebody. That you don't know.
How long ago was that question? It would be interesting to know when that was.
I don't remember.
Like if that was Bella Thorne.
so.
Wait, that was Bella Thorne or that was Anne Hathaway?
That was Bella Thorne.
Okay, then it's probably recent. If it was Anne Hathaway, it could have been like that. That question is ridiculous.
That's something that they would ask a teenage Anne Hathaway, not
in the early.
That's
like,
not
in the late
something
90s.
you ask Bella Thorne in
not at all.
2022.
That's insane. Like
that is a crazy thing to ask anybody. Actually, like even if you think that, it's crazy.
I wonder if those same adult film stars or OnlyFans stars get that angry when they're like, do you think you do this because of trauma in your childhood? And they're like, well, that's disrespectful to ask me, because they have to keep up the ruse of it's not about trauma. It's about
this is about me reclaiming my sexuality.
Yep.
When in reality, it's the exact opposite. And you're still basically mentally 10 years old. That's what I'm saying. Like you're like, I hate that the message from both the crazy feminist celebrities and the anti-woke people, or whatever you want to call them, is like women have agency and you can do nothing to encroach upon that. The truth is neither of those things. They don't have the agency they claim to have.
Oh, no, the idea would be that they masquerade around the idea of agency because agency is a product that they sell of how empowered they are, this or that. Like the people with actual agency don't need to talk about it. Right. So just the fact that they're talking about it, it's me doth protest too much. Right. Like it's like if you have to scream constantly about about how empowered you are, there's likely a discussion that needs to be had about whether that's true. Just like the idea, like the person who's really in charge doesn't need to constantly tell you they're in charge. They just are.
That's true.
The person who takes responsibility for their actions, it will be, it will be reflected in their actions, not in what they say.
When women acted like they didn't have agency, they had more agency in like the 20th century.
How so?
You know, like when we had fainting couches and stuff like that. I don't know how society was, but like women have more agency when they're able to deny their agency.
Yeah.
When they're constantly asserting their agency is when they're actually children inside.
Makes me think of like
they're a Bella Thorne.
A great trope of movies in television that was supposed to be reflective of real life back in the day was, I don't want to be seen of as a victim. Now, like if I see that in movies and television, I start laughing because nobody actually believes that anymore.
Well, what was that storyline about like diabetes? Like there was a character who had diabetes and that was her big like secret that she didn't want people to know about her.
Where was that? That was in Will Trent. And so like they explained it to me better, like why that would actually be a problem, that in a way that made sense to me. But the problem is if it has to be explained better by somebody off screen, then they didn't do their job as filmmakers to explain why it's a problem. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like the fear of needles and that it could actually affect your job performance, which made sense at the time. It's still not going to make me watch the show because I think it was ass, but like that's the explanation that he gave made perfect sense. The problem is the filmmakers didn't convey that, so they didn't do their job properly. The people who explained it to me worked in the field, so they understood it, but you're not making it for the people that work in the field. You're making it for general audiences, so it has to be conveyed in a way that's plain enough for everybody to understand.
Someone said Mary needs a fainting couch. I absolutely do.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I would faint more often.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.